a second to come through. And here we are. So let's wait for this to pop up. I have a 6-second configuration in case anybody has any latency. And there we go. We are live, everybody. Thank you for joining. Happy Sunday. I am honored once again to have George from Cryptos Are Us here and Rob from Digital Asset News. So, how are you guys this morning?
Great.
Yeah, I'm fantastic.
Good. You get any sleep last night? Or were you sniping?
I sleep like a baby these days.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I just woke up at like 2 or 1 in the morning. I saw the market cap plunge to like 1.8 or something like that, 1.9. I'm like, I'm sure James is having a good time with that. That's about it.
yeah, I need more coffee today. Anyway, for everybody who is new to both George and Rob, I think these guys are celebrities. They speak for themselves. But if you're not, please subscribe to their channels. Their links are below. George is from Cryptos Are Us, and Rob is from Digital Asset News. So again, links are below. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the stuff we saw last week, what we expect next week, some of the current news and events, and maybe do some token picks and open up to Q&A from you guys for the last 20 minutes or so. So with that, let's just jump right in. You guys ready to talk about the State of the Union?
It's a lot of things going on. It's just not a lot of action as far as like price swings. But yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, let's look at the market. Obviously, an extremely bumpy last night, which we'll talk about in a little while, and why that can be a great opportunity for people out there. And talk about, ETH being above 3,000 again, which is big news. But we will also talk about why Ethereum is so weak compared to other types of solutions, and it shouldn't be. Cardano is dark red, not sure why. Bitcoin is heading to 45K. I had a theory that before the markets would open Monday morning, Bitcoin would be back at 45K. And I did a tweet on that at about 5 to 1 p.m. on Friday, saying I think it's going to be a good weekend. Despite volatility, I always say, buckle your seatbelts. And we'll talk about some other names as well. So any observations you guys see that surprised you in the market today? It's good to see some green.
Well, I'll say that, last night we had that dip, and that seemed to just be a shakeout. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for what's coming in October. At least I do. I'm very excited about getting out of September, which traditionally is a bad month for Bitcoin. And strangely enough, or maybe not strangely enough, but this China FUD that came out, it was it came out in September 2017 too, right before Bitcoin went on a 500% run, right? So are we seeing the same thing happening right now where, yes, we get that shakeout to get people to get out right before this huge, tremendous run that's coming in the next 3 months? I think it's very, very strange that both China FUD came out at the same time, basically, right before, in the fourth year, right before a huge run up.
Yeah, but it's funny, actually, when we speak about things like, Q4 always being strong at this particular season every 4 years, are we beginning to just assume too much? Now, I'm playing devil's advocate here with this question. But
no, it's something that I worry about, because when I look at these things, we tend to look at the fractals and see what's going on in the past to kind of see what could happen in the future, but it may not always be like that. And that's one of the things where, like, every time I think that I know where the market's going to go, the market always slaps me down and says, no, this is not what we're going to do. We're going to do something completely different. But in this one, I mean, if we just look at the history, maybe it doesn't happen right on October 1st or middle October. But if we just take a look at it and go, maybe there is a lengthening cycle. But I mean, if you're in this crypto space, chances are you've been in for a while. If you've waited this long and you've had enough of those diamond hands to go all the way through this, I think you can hang on for a couple more months to see the big gains.
Well, yeah. And George, what do you think? Do you think we are just assuming too much that history will repeat?
Yes. Well, let me take Rob's stance real quick. I think that's also important to recognize that there's the contrarian type of trading where you don't follow the herd, right? You do what the opposite of what the herd is doing. So there could be a chance that, hey, we do have a lengthening cycle, or we don't have the explosiveness in the next 3 months, right? And there could be a chance that we already saw the top and we're just going to continue down, right? There's always a chance, but is it likely? That's where, if you pay attention to what's going on, the fundamentals, the reserves, the buying, the adoption, the everything else that's going on, it just doesn't align with those possibilities. At least, I think it aligns more, closely to the fact that we're going to have this run up, right? Yeah. But just to be careful, that's why I always say, have cash on the side. Have a good amount of cash on the side, just in case. If everyone's wrong, right, and we do have a correction or dip, you're able to take advantage and you continue to buy the dip and hold on more, right? So I think that's the best way you could do it, is you prepare for the worst, but you hope for the best. That's really it.
That's extremely well said. And you're dead right about the whole backdrop. I mean, you could not paint a rosier picture of every single indicator out there. So let's talk about switch gears and let's look at what Bitcoin did last night. I mean, this was a crazy wick. We moved down and then up $3,000 in 100 minutes. The floor bounced off again like it did on Friday, 40,700, almost to the $50 level, and it shot right back up. So the question is this being manipulated again, or is this just natural buying and selling?
Sorry, this is George's realm. I'll let him take this one.
Last night I did notice, periodically, I look at Crypto Quant, and one of my members also looked at this inside my Patreon. He saw a huge spike of BTC into the exchanges, like a huge one, like a 9,000 deposit. That could have triggered that, or it was done on purpose to trigger other people into selling.
Yep.
Right. So there was some signs of manipulation last night. But yeah, outside of that, I don't know what else. I mean, really, I just think it's just a shakeout before, get people to again doubt themselves, right? Doubt that Bitcoin can recover and just kind of get them out.
Yeah, and it's so easy to manipulate this market. It's only $2 trillion, which seems like a ton, but if you take a look at the traditional stock market, that's manipulated as well, and metals is manipulated. We know that what JP Morgan does, but. So like with this one, I think if you've seen all these big players come in, and we all know that they want to get their clients the best price. So why wouldn't they, if it is them or somebody else and they're piggyback on them, maybe they're all doing it. Maybe it's just Scott Menard from Guggenheim. Who knows?
Yeah, no, it's definitely seems like it is contrived. And obviously when you look at the liquidations that happen on things like all the derivative exchanges, somebody's ripping them off on purpose. And every time people get a sense of comfort, okay, we're beginning to creep back up again, and then wake them down, liquidate them, and then move back up. So it just seems very predictable, but it's a great time to snipe. And in full disclosure, I managed to get some fills and some Bitcoin and some AAVE last night too, but we'll talk more about that too. Okay, the big question. One of the things that could really explode October for us would be a Bitcoin ETF. There is so much on the grapevine about the fact that Gensler will approve one. More than one. Many people think 2 or 3. What do you guys think? If you were betting men, would you say yes in October to an ETF or no? And what probabilities?
First of all, is this futures? Is this spot? What kind of...
This is the ETF proper.
Really?
Yeah.
Here's all I'll say about that is that how long have we been hearing about this? I've been hearing about this since I got in, and it never materializes. If it does happen, I'll be surprised. I'm hopeful, and in God, I hope I'm wrong, because just like, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, says there's $1 trillion on the sidelines because of people like him who don't feel comfortable getting into these types of situations. They want an ETF because that's what they're used to. Yep. And if we can get it from 2 to 3 trillion overnight because it's ETF, hope I'm wrong. I just don't see it.
Okay, George, what are your spidey senses?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a true Bitcoin ETF this year. Gensler has so much on his plate. he's trying to prove himself, set a name for himself as the guy that basically takes down all security tokens. So I just don't see it. I think he still has Ripple he's worrying about. He has Uniswap and all these other lending companies that he's worrying about, and everything else that he's tackling. I just don't see it. I do see a Bitcoin futures ETF being improved because that's easy. Bitcoin futures already exist. It's based on paper. It's not based on Bitcoin. So to have ETFs based on Bitcoin futures, that's easy. I think that will come, but I don't think a true Bitcoin ETF will come this year.
See, what has me confused is I see some of the tea leaf signs, like they haven't rejected applications for a few names. And also, Gensler comes from Wall Street, and he's under a lot of pressure by a lot of heavy hitters to get it done. And if he doesn't, money will continue to drain out to Canadian ETFs like Cathie Wood is investing in, and maybe some German ETFs and some Brazilian ETFs. So the US stands to lose. And it just seems bad that they're behind the game, especially when you look at some of the ETFs that are already approved for extremely risky assets.
Yeah.
So, and it'll be interesting to see. I think I have a funny feeling where there's smoke, there's fire. Something could give, and it would be very, very positive for the market. So we shall see. Let's switch gears now and talk to Cardano and all the partnership news. I know you guys are deep in this. So this little chart here just shows you the action of Cardano over the last 10, 12 days or so. And despite their big event, despite huge partnerships being announced, it went down. And there was a little bit of a spike yesterday around lunchtime, and then it just sold off. So why is that happening? Are these partnerships not really valuable to the chain, or what do you think is going on?
George, I'll let you take this one.
I just think that people need to have more patience. Cardano earlier this year ran up tremendously, thousands of percents. So now it's more of, okay, Cardano is nearing completion. We need to have the dApps. We need to see it actually being used, and it's not just vaporware, right? So an event like yesterday with Cardano Summit, it was very good, but it was, again, what's to come, not what is now. I was waiting for something like a Dexs, like Ergo or Sunday Swap or something like that, or ADA Swap or whatever, to actually come out and say, okay, we're ready. We're going to be opening up. People can start, trading on our Dexs and, put ADA into our pools. I was waiting for that, but that didn't come. However, with that said, everything that was announced yesterday was very, very positive. It shows that Cardano is thinking about the future, about getting serious about NFTs, which they announced yesterday, a big partnership with the esport company called Rival. And also, they have a lot of stuff coming. They have this partnership with Cody, which they're going to come out, well, at least rumored to come out with their own stablecoin, algorithmic stablecoin to kind of compete with others that's out there. But there was other things that was announced that basically, is setting the stage again for the future to what we could look forward to, but not really here yet, right? I think that's what people were kind of, at least some people are disappointed with, but it does show that they're still executing, they're still moving forward, and we just have to have more patience.
Yep.
If you believe in the project. If you don't believe in the project, then of course there are others that are solid projects as well.
Exactly. Yeah, and I agree. I think it's one of those things where, it sounds big. Everybody talks about, first of all, the Dish Network and Boost. When I posted that, I said, okay, first of all, I'm going to post this thing, what's going on with Cardano, and there's always going to be people who say, who cares about Dish? Because no one uses Dish and nobody uses Boost. And sure enough, as soon as I posted, people were like, who uses Dish and who uses Boost? First of all, a couple of our properties, we use Dish, works out pretty well. Boost Mobile, Dish has 9-10 million consumers, and then Boost is 8 million or something like that. So yes, it's not like what people will say, the bleeding edge of technology, but maybe it's one of those things where they say, hey, we're going to incorporate what you guys have and start to kickstart us into a new direction, and hopefully it can all work out. I think it was a good first step, and I did like the press conference when they had some of the gentlemen from Dish and Boost, and Charles Hoskinson said, he goes, I like working with these guys because they're always the conversation is always like, where are we going? What are we doing? What's the direction? Let's move faster. And he's like, yeah, that's something that we need to do. And I was like, that's exactly it. If there's one big complaint about Cardano, it's like they don't move fast enough. So now they, like George said, to not vaporware, rubber meets the road. Let's see if they actually get pushed into that direction and create that thing.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah. By the way, to piggy off of that, Dish Network has a big relationship with Amazon. So Amazon seems to be gearing up to get back into the phone business. So they partner up because they're interested in the 5G network and the foundation that Boost and Dish has. So that could be a big thing. That could be a big thing because the whole partnership with Dish was to provide DIDs for mobile users, right? Yep. So does this mean that if Amazon buys Dish or Boost or they come out their own phone again, can Cardano DIDs or wallet or whatever be integrated into those phones? Who knows? That could be coming.
That's an interesting angle as well. I did hear rumors as well that Amazon could acquire Dish.
Yeah,
you never know. Amazon is so big they could acquire anything. But, cool. This is speaking of the elephant in the room, the Evergrande situation and China shutting down crypto. It looks like the market reacted, but then recovered incredibly fast. So it was like, George, you were you believed it would be like what I would call a nothing burger to a large extent. But what was really interesting is how Huobi was shut down to Chinese traders over the last, I think, 48 hours. And it saw a huge spike in action on Dexs. So, and yesterday and the day before, there was a huge differential in price between USDT and the US dollar, which means the demand for USDT was extreme on Friday and Saturday. So it looks like the Chinese crypto investors are making moves. They're moving the cash to USDT, and then they're moving on to Dexs. What do you think of that?
I think Uniswap's up 22% in the last 24 hours. That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I got a couple of charts here just to show you. In full disclosure as well, I own Uniswap and AAVE. And just look at those pounces. But it's also important to note that Sushi and Maker is kind of mixed up and then down. And Sushi, no reaction. So do you guys like any of these names? And do you believe they're being pumped right now because of money moving in from Asia, China?
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't make that connection. I mean, I saw the headline where Huobi was shutting down to China. I didn't make that connection like, oh, these guys would be going to Dexs, but it makes sense because, hey, if they have millions in their Huobi account, they need to move it somewhere, right? And if they can't get into Binance and they can't get into wherever, then they need to move it to like a Dex. So that makes a whole lot of sense. But out of the Dexes that I like, I just like the big boys. I mean, they've been around for a while and everyone uses them, like Uniswap, Sushi Swap, Pancake Swap, all the major ones. I know there's a lot more swaps out there. There's hundreds of swaps. And there's, leaders within certain chains too. I know, like, if you're a Polygon fan, there's QuickSwap, and KuCoin has their own swap now. I like it. I like KuCoin Exchange, but there's a lot of swaps out there. But I tend to gravitate towards the bigger guys because I think they're more trustable at this point.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's so many out there. Like I get emails from people who get rug pulled every so often, and then the big one, I think, Iron Finance. So I'm going to miss a bunch of opportunities for the early plays because I try to be a little bit safer. That's just how I'll always do it. But everybody's welcome to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, and Uniswap does have a little bit of regulatory risk exposure. They've already had some pressure put on them. They had to take some things off of their shelves. So we'll monitor that carefully. Let's talk about Ethereum, because this is one of those things where there's a ton of Ethereum options, derivatives activity happening right now. And more so than Bitcoin, the old big money center banks that are getting into crypto now love Ethereum, probably because they listened to people like Raoul Pal 3 or 4 months ago. I don't know. But Ethereum has been a laggard compared to some of the other names. What do you
Mm-hmm.
guys think about Ethereum? And do you think it's because the other, I hate to use the word ETH killers, but that's what people like to refer to them as, are chomping at the heels and grabbing market share away in activity? Because the other thing that was astounding to me about a week ago, I looked at the transaction level for Ethereum 2018 to today. It's the same, despite all of the growth in the chain. So where do you guys see Ethereum going from here?
I mean, I only see it going up. George covered this on his channel, where the reserve for all the exchanges is just down, 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 down. So, and then of course everything is going on the NFTs. I just don't see how it can't go up, and I think it's still going to hit 9 or 10K this cycle. But that's how I see it.
Do you think they'll pull off ETH 2.0 successfully? George, what do you reckon? Is that you laughing?
Rob is just shaking his head like, it's interesting. Like today, if you look at Ethereum's up like 5%, right? So I was just doing some math, and if you take 5% out of the 360 billion market cap, that's about 18 billion. So that's like roughly half of, say, Solana, or it's more than half for Polkadot. So the amount of money that went into Ethereum to pump it up 5% could have pumped up like Polkadot and Solana like 50% almost. So it's kind of funny, but I think that has something to do with it. Is the fact that it takes an enormous amount of money to move Ethereum now. It's close to $400 billion. It's no longer a small cap. The differential between Ethereum and Bitcoin is only half. It's only 50% now. Once upon a time, it was like a 10x difference, a 20x difference. Now it's only a 2x difference. So it's definitely behaving more like a big cap at this point. And I do think because of that, it's harder to move. And because of that, retail investors are flocking to ETH killers, because they tend to move faster. You can't deny the fact that, Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche, Cosmos, even some of the smaller guys, Tezos, they have been on an absolute tear within the last few months, where Ethereum and Bitcoin has been non-movers, right? So I think that has a lot to do with it. But on the grander scale, yes, like things like the reserves dropping from exchanges, that's going to have a toll. Whenever supply decreases and demand increases, even if demand doesn't increase, demand stays the same, but supply simply decreases, that's going to have effect on the price. But we know that supply is decreasing and demand is increasing, especially among institutional investors. So I think it will come up. You shouldn't ignore Ethereum at this point, but it's just one of those things. It's just so much bigger than everyone else. So it's going to take a lot more money to move at this point.
Yep. Very good point. Cool. So any final things, like what do you guys see happening next week? We have a couple more days left in the month of September, the sucky month. So far we are up based on where we began the month, which is good. Green candle is always good, especially for September that historically doesn't have green candles. Mm-hmm. How do you guys see us closing out the month on Thursday?
I see a couple more dips, and that's why I've even dollar cost averaged my dips these days, because I just expect things to go down, just like George always talks about whale games and people getting shaken out. I think this could be the big time, and I think the only ones that don't are the ones that have been here and they've kind of realized what the game is, and they can keep putting in that money and that dry powder. So I see 1 to 2 more dips, and then I see a recovery in October. I don't know when, because I'm not a Nostradamus, but that's how I see things going through.
Yeah.
I tend to look at the cup half full, right? And I just think there's just brighter days coming. The interesting thing is we just had options and futures expirations, so that's over with. And traditionally, right afterwards, we're heading into a new month. But this month is strange, so that we still have like another full week before we get into October. But I don't see anything really holding down Bitcoin. I don't think there's any true price suppression at this point. True, top that some of these whales that may play options and futures want to keep Bitcoin below. If there's more FUD around China or anything else that comes out, maybe that will cause some more weakness. But I think that right now there's a lot of money just sitting on the sidelines waiting. And once those people realize that there's nothing to hold Bitcoin back, right? It's going to flow in and we're going to be right back to where we were. And into October and November, December, I'm anticipating a big run up.
Yeah, there it is. Good.
I like that.
Good. We got a couple of questions from the field, a couple of tricky ones today. You guys open to some questions from our audience? Yeah. Things that are top of mind for folks. So the first one is, and this could be a good one for you, George. Do developments in the Lightning protocol pose a real and persistent threat to all things Ethereum?
No, it doesn't. Lightning Network, as far as I know, has nothing to do with smart contracts. It's more for payments, to speed up payments, make it cheap and fast and very, very, almost feeless in a way. So for people that believe Bitcoin should be the only digital currency, the only crypto to be used for payments, right? You want to embrace Lightning Network. But Lightning Network has its drawbacks. It's basically a brand new network that's powered by operators that are running nodes. So it's not as decentralized as Bitcoin's network, not nearly as much. So there's always that aspect to it. Like, do you really trust another layer 2 on top of Bitcoin because it's another network that's not as decentralized? But it doesn't take away from Ethereum. Ethereum is all about building dApps. You could build payment dApps, but that's only one of the things you could build. So no, it does not threaten Ethereum at all.
Exactly. Somebody asked me the other day, a related question was, do you believe that Strike could hurt XRP down the line? Which I think they're kind of in different swim lanes. But Rob, what's your take on that? Lightning. Obviously, I don't see the relation either. I don't know why people are concerned. But
George put it up pretty well. I think the only thing with smart contracts, I think when Taproot comes out for Bitcoin, they're going to talk about that. But that'll be interesting to see how that works out as far as smart contracts and network congestion. I don't really see it. And I never understood the whole argument about there can be only one, like a Highlander type of thing. I think every different crypto has its own little thing and what it can do in its own niche. And we're seeing that play out right now.
Yeah, cool. Funny question as well from Snowfall. This is interesting. I've put all my money into the dip. I'm bored. What do I do now? What do you advise people to do when they have no cash left? Sit back and watch or swap around positions? Offload losers, invest in winners. What do you reckon?
Sometimes you don't have to do anything. I get questions like that all the time. Not that they don't have money. They're like, oh, what new coin can I buy? Sometimes you don't have to pick a new coin. You could just stick with what you have and you stick with what you know. You could DCA into them. Yeah. But I find people get bored. So they're like, George, give me a new coin to get into, right? So I see that a lot. But for people that don't have money, well, you just sit and wait, or you go hustle and make some side cash, right? Go flip something or go flip NFTs or something. There's so many things you could do to make extra money and then utilize that money to put back into crypto.
Good answer.
Yeah. I can see that. I got nothing. For me, it's just like, what I try to do is do more research on the projects that I'm actually into, or I get into other ones of my business, the online business, the real estate, that type of thing, because that'll always keep me entertained around. To me, it's just, it can't be all crypto all the time because I'll get burnt out.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I advise people too, like, hey, if you want a side hustle, go start a YouTube channel. It's free. It's what we all do. Everyone could start a YouTube channel or become a TikToker or Instagrammer or whatever, right? You just have to dedicate some time, but there's infinite ways to make money. And as long as you can find something that you enjoy and you can make some side money or hustle, it may become your permanent income, like I think it is for all three of us. And then you can use that money to invest in crypto. That's, again, that's just an example.
Yeah, you mentioned a great point there, George, as well. Make sure you enjoy it, because if it's your passion, it's very easy to do. If it's something you don't like doing, don't try build a YouTube channel about.
It's a
Oil
grind.
painting, exactly. So cool question for you two as well. This is for Rob and George. I have 5% of my portfolio in XRP. Is it a buy, sell, or hold, and why?
Oh man, from George, what do you got on this one?
I'm gonna take the political answer. No, XRP. What? Truth be told, if they settle the lawsuit, if they win, it'll probably go up. It'll explode up. So that's short term. Long term, I don't like their business model, but you can't deny the fact that in previous times there were some tremendous pumps for XRP because there's a large following. People love XRP. So I think it's irresponsible not to have a little bit just for that reason alone. But yeah, if the person that asked the question, they have 5% or something in there. Yeah. Just leave it. It's 5%, a small amount. Now, if you have 50%, I would say then you should diversify.
Yeah, definitely diversify. For me, like if I get my hands on some more XRP, I would probably buy it because I think that I honestly believe that when they go through with the SEC, it's either one or two things. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be an outright win, but I think it'll be a fine. I think it'll move forward. And I think in that day, that week, that month, the price will go up exponentially. I think, especially with all the XRP community, you can if you had to put your money on a community, it is that one. That is the most passionate that they have about XRP. So I would if I had to invest in that, I would invest in that. The business model, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different competitors, and I think it kind of sucks that they kind of got stymied at the very beginning of this bull run at the very exact time and in the exact way that it all happened. But it is what it is.
Cool. This is a stock question from Steve G. We hold a lot of our 401k and index funds. We want to swap into a few key stocks like Tesla, Google, Palantir. How and when would you make the transition? What do you guys reckon?
That's for
I know George, you like Tesla, and Tesla just hit a technically on a close basis more than a 6-month high. So Tesla's on fire lately.
I don't know. Tesla, after you've been in crypto for a while and you've seen the gains, like Tesla does not excite me at all. I mean, it's like,
don't tell Elon Musk.
It's up 5%. Like, it's like it's a nothing burger. I'm gonna steal that from Kevin O'Leary. So I mean, it doesn't really excite me. I think diversification is okay. Here's my thoughts about diversification: is if you want to get wealthy, you don't diversify. You stick with what you know and you continue to move forward. Once you built that wealth and you are wealthy, you have that life-changing wealth or whatever goal you may have, then you diversify. So I find that if you diversify too early, you're too distracted and then you end up, just not achieving your goals or achieving it much slower versus had you just stuck with what you know, right? So I think people that are in crypto, you've been in it for a while, right? There's no need to diversify to something like Palantir or Tesla until you're ready. You achieve your goal or you built that life-changing wealth. Then you think about it. That's my take.
Yeah, that's it's a perfect take. Just invest in what you know. I remember back when I got out of the Army, I was working as a medic. One of my preceptors, he was investing into Google. I'm like, why Google? He's like, because I use it all the time and it works. I'm like, that's dumb. And he's like, no. He goes, that's exactly why I invest into it, because I use it all the time. I understand it, pretty well. And then all this time forward, I'm like, that now it all makes a lot of sense, right? It's amazing the information that you got when you were like younger, and you're like, nah, that makes sense. And all of a sudden, it's like the best advice of all time. So, yeah, like I have Tesla, I have Mara, and I have Amazon, and also Airbnb. Obviously, because I know all those things. I use all those things and I believe in all those things. So
good. Yeah. And my take is I own all three as well. And I'm a very, very big believer in Tesla and Google. In fact, they're my biggest equity positions. And if you're an index fund, and that was Steve's kind of question, is I would just slot out of that, when you can, and DCA and take the DCA principle. But you got Palantir and Tesla and Google all very close to highs right now, so that's always risky too. But I do believe these stocks will outperform the indexes themselves. Quick question from Outclick. Is there any chance you guys would have Benjamin Cohen join the three of you?
Yeah. Ben's a smart guy. I like him.
So maybe we have a guest appearance one day. That just came in from
George. No.
Outclick. So
Sure. I mean, I was set to talk to him before, but yeah, his interview with Michael went horribly. I don't know, well, not on him. I think Michael just wasn't having it with him. Yeah. So I actually didn't like that interview, but I think he could add a lot. I mean, overall, I think he's doing good things. Educating people. The only thing I didn't like was he was, kind of calling Bitcoin, in a bear market, which I guess if for a technical definition, I guess it was, but I just didn't like it, defined, or like the market being defined in a bear market. So,
yeah, it's always good to have some opposing views. I do like Ben's channel. I watch it every so often. He's able to keep it concise and tight in the time frame, because a lot of these TA guys, it's like 20-30 minutes. Like, what the hell just happened? So I'll take that. It's
an interesting question from Sam Azarano. Basically, Bitcoin intrinsic value is $25,000, which is kind of like the value floor. And he says that's the equivalent price earnings ratio of 1.72. I'm not sure how that's calculated. Well, I know how he's calculating it, but my take is you can't value Bitcoin with a price earnings ratio because it doesn't have earnings per se, just like gold. So that goes out the window. Oh, Logan, I have 13K to invest going into Q4. Where would you put it? Not financial advice, of course.
Interesting.
Rob?
Why do you always give it? Gosh, right now, I will tell you right now, I mean, it all depends on you and your level of volatility and safety. Because if you want to make like a very safe bet, well, it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? Everybody knows about it. James talks about it. Raoul Pal talks about Ethereum, and all the big players are going to do that. However, what it's going to get you, it's going to get you a 2x, and that's as much as it's going to be. I mean, this cycle, I don't see it going past that. As you go down that list, then you start to take a look at a little bit more not safe type of options, especially outside the top 100. But you can make a lot. I will, if it was me and I had 13,000. Geez, let me see. If I had to invest, well, first of all, I put a little bit in Cardano after all those different things that were said, and hopefully they can make it up. But again, it's all about how long do you want to go. I just put a bunch into Terra when it was down a lot. Again, when these things are down, not when they're pumping. Now with what James was talking about, as far as the Asian markets over in China being kicked out and going into Uniswap, that'd probably be a good one. And then Polkadot Kusama. I could see those things being a pretty big play. And that's, I mean, if you want to go outside of that, if you were able to, I would have done World Mobile Token and Meld, because I think those things are going to change the game as far as telecommunications and loans. But that's what I got.
Yeah, it's difficult. So 13,000, I definitely think, I've advised, building a portfolio following the 50-25-25 rule. So 50% in Bitcoin. I think all newcomers and even non-newcomers should have a good amount in Bitcoin, up to 50%. And then 25% in big caps, which is anything I define over 10 billion. So that includes Ethereum, Cardano, Binance Coin, Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche, Uniswap, Terra, Chainlink, and even Algorand and Cosmos. Cosmos is close enough. So I think those are all fantastic plays. I mean, for a project to get above 10 billion really means that they have a lot of utility and bright future and a good team. Otherwise, they just can't pump up that much. You could have pumps, but to pump up and stay up that much means they're generally pretty good. So I think spraying out between there and, and then last 25% spread out in some of the mid and small caps. And, that can include like Polygon, FTT, VeChain, Tezos, Elrond, PancakeSwap. Some of the DeFi plays like AAVE, Compound, PancakeSwap, and then there's a few others in there that I like. But there's a lot. There's a lot. So sometimes periodically I'll create videos where I just go through the top 100 or 150 and kind of just give brief thoughts on each one. So I think it's a difficult question to answer within such a short amount of time. Exactly. Let's just put it that way.
You're dead right. It's tough. I can't say what I would tell people to do, but what I did last night was I had 5 limit orders out. I expected a wick down, and 2 of them filled. They were AAVE and Bitcoin. So I picked up AAVE last night at 260 and I've been watching it for a while, but I just missed Ethereum, Polkadot, and Solana by a tiny fraction. So this is a question for the 3 of us. But Jonathan Hernandez says, James doesn't believe this bear market will correct 85%. What's your take? And how long will the bear market last? Now, the correction on the 85%, that's the retracement level. For Bitcoin, I don't see us doing an 85% retracement level, unless, of course, it does something completely crazy, like goes to $400,000. Then it's possible. But if we just go to 100 grand, I think we'll come back to 50K. If we go to 200, we might go back to 90 to 100K. That's my take. So it'll be more like a 50-55% maximum retracement. What do you guys think? And how long will this bear market last, if there even is one?
George, take that one.
I think that 85% out the window, unless we do something crazy. Because even at 250,000 Bitcoin, at 85% retracement would bring it back down to 37.5, which is below where we are now. Yeah. So I could see we have a big major correction after we have a top event, maybe another 50%, 60%, maybe 70%, 85% just seems too big, unless Bitcoin really after 100,000 starts pumping up. FOMO just really starts coming in from all sides, and we have blow off top event at like $350,000, $400,000. Then 85% down. I think that's reasonable because we just went up way too fast. Yeah. But if we have a slow and steady climb, let's say we just climb to 100, 125, 150,000 by the end of the year, I just don't see that. Could we have a 50% correction from 125,000? Sure. Then we'll just be back down to 60,000, right? That could definitely happen. I'm focusing more on the institutions that have bought in, and I just don't see them having weak hands like retail investors. Once they bought, that's it. That's out of circulation. It's just go be held by those guys for a very long time. And if that's the case, and circulation of Bitcoin just keeps decreasing and buying keeps increasing, I just don't see the same kind of cycle that we had before. So,
yeah, I can see that. I don't see. I mean, this is definitely different than 2017. Remember, we went from like 1,000, 2,000, all the way to 20,000 in a very a month and a half, very short amount of time. So, if we do something like that, like you said, sure, but is it going to happen? It seems like everything's so slow, but like we just talked about, I mean, if October, November, December are the same as before, and we see some massive FOMO, there's going to be people who are the smart money is going to ride this up. They're going to sell at the top, near the top, and let it come back down. I'm going to be even more conservative than James. James thinks there's going to be a 50,000 retracement back to the level. If we go to 100, I think it's between 35 and 40. Just on what I have seen in the past. But I think we're going to see some more gains extending into January, February, March.
Yeah, there's just more, there's more long-term hodlers right now, more institutions. It's just a lot more stable. It's a lot bigger. There's more derivatives. I don't see that type of volatility happening again. Anyway, this is an interesting question from Ara Hanazarian. If Bitcoin goes to 100K, which is related to what we just covered, ETH goes to 9K, Sol goes to 500 to 700. What price can we expect these 3 to return to? So we kind of covered Bitcoin. If ETH goes to 9K, I think the alts will have a much more violent retracement than Bitcoin. But what do you guys reckon? Like if ETH did hit 9K, would it go back to 3, where it is now? Or 5, 4?
You take the good with the bad. So altcoins do go up faster than Bitcoin. So they come down faster than Bitcoin too. That's why, you have to have a good diversified portfolio. I think too many people load up on alts and stick with alts, and especially the small cap alts, because they want to make that quick money right away, right? But if we go through a period of time where there is volatility and there's extended downwards pressure, then they get wrecked and then they leave. That's the problem. So, yeah, if Bitcoin has a 50% retracement, Ethereum and others, Ethereum probably less than some of the other altcoins. They'll probably be more, like 60%, and then Cardano and others could be 65%, and others could even be higher, 70%. We could definitely see that. I mean, when Bitcoin retraced 85%, altcoins retraced like 99%. I mean, some were like 99.9%. Like it was almost back to zero. Yeah. So it kind of shows you.
Yeah. You guys don't play. Sorry, Rob.
No, go ahead, James.
You guys don't play proxies, do you? Like MicroStrategy? I know you have Marathon Mining you mentioned, Rob, but...
No, but since I'm part of your Patreon, I've been getting a pretty hard look over at MicroStrategy. I think that could be a good play by proxy. Yeah. And just like what George said, when Bitcoin gets snatched up by some of these people, MicroStrategy, it goes into a black hole and it never returns, essentially. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So exactly. I think that could be a pretty good play.
Well, that was a question from David B. With the approval of a Bitcoin ETF, will that impact MicroStrategy stock? So my take is yes, it will. It'll make it less. The more avenues you give people to proxies,
sure,
the less frothy they will become. But still, I believe MicroStrategy has a very good intrinsic value right now. I calculate it's worth about 84% of its value market cap is pure Bitcoin. The rest is intrinsic value. But what they can do is they can borrow more and issue more stock to buy more Bitcoin. An ETF can't do that. So, David, it's hard to say, but I think it will have a little bit of a dampener on it. This is another question from Shelly H. And I know Cello was so interesting last week. And what people do out there, and you guys probably see this all the time, when something moves and everything else is red, people get excited. It's like, ooh, let's go get some. So Cello was one of those. The whole market was red and Cello was green. And people asked our thoughts on Cello. You like it? Or cello?
Cello or seller?
CELO. It's
okay.
It's number 144, I think.
Cello is, as far as I remember, it's just like a payment. It's a payment system. It competes with like Cody, for example, and AMP. But it didn't really. I'm looking at a chart. I mean, it went up 8% last week, but the one that really went up is Seller, and that's a scaling solution, a layer 2 solution.
Yeah, and
that went up astronomically the last week and the whole month. It's up 30% within the last 7 days. 62% in the last 7 days and 283% in the last 30 days. So I don't know. I mean, Cello, I'm just neutral on, but Seller looks a lot more promising right now.
Yeah, it was Cello, CELO. I don't know, Rob, if you track that one. I've analyzed it because people have asked, and it has one of the worst crypto compendium scores of anything out there. It's in the bottom 20th percentile. It's got 70% inflation, heavily centralized, etc. It's just a complete mess. It's just one of those flash in the pan ones. Everybody be very careful with these types of cryptos. I don't like them. Let me see. This is one which we kind of touched on at the beginning from Gavin24. How much money would it take to orchestrate a drop like we saw last night? Like we know the movement of Bitcoin onto the exchange. I think 6,000 to 10,000 Bitcoins is enough to rattle the markets and take it down $2,000 or $3,000. That's all it takes, because you got to look at the exchange you're manipulating and the amount of volume and the amount of depth and the amount of crypto on exchanges. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot if you strike at the right time. So that'd be my take. You guys have a number?
It's exactly the same. It doesn't take much at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, relatively speaking, it still takes hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not like any one of us can cause that kind of drop. Well, maybe James can. I don't know.
No. Maybe James. I'll throw a Bitcoin at the exchange and see if it'll tank. No, it's not going to work. Yeah. This is more of a political one. This could be a good one for you, Rob. The last question is, with the current state of politics around the world, global debt, regulation, vaccine passports, do you have doubt about the global adoption of Bitcoin?
It's read that again,
So
because all I heard was COVID.
yeah, it's from Mark DeKang. With the current state of politics around the world, global debt, regulation, vaccine passports, etc., do you have any doubts about global adoption of
Oh, I
Bitcoin?
think it accelerates I mean, if you think about it, I think it might even accelerate everything.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as far as like global debt and the printing of money, when people start to realize that the purchasing power is the most important aspect of their dollars or of their currency, and start to see that it just slips and slips and slips because everything is just so overwhelming as far as like the debt, we start to see, like, then people start to ask the question is, why do I have currency? What does this currency do for me? And how does it hold value? And then they start to look at Bitcoin and go, oh, this is why it is. And this is why it actually holds value. There's only 21 million. It's actually finite. No one can really, turn on the printing press and just print like crazy. So in that part, yes. And this kind of speaks to the whole Maxi situation, as far as like when Maxi say, Bitcoin's everything. You can do everything. You don't need all the rest of this stuff. And the only reason for altcoins is to steal money from Bitcoin. And that's not the truth. The truth really comes down to is that Bitcoin cannot do everything. And we just saw this like with Cardano and the digital IDs. So like my big pet project is voting. So like we talk about voter manipulation. If you can have a digital ID, and you can go through the governments and say like this and go, we want to do voting in a digital ID place. Well, then all the different things just kind of fade away with all the voter suppression and everything else, because now we have access to that. And that's just the very tip as far as digital IDs. So if I see like this situation, if it's slowing down, again, I think it accelerates everything that's going on.
Yeah, very well said. And George, any take from your side? Because
Yeah, I think all those things. It's just like Rob said. It's good for Bitcoin and crypto. It's good for blockchain.
yeah,
Like if you want to track vaccine passports or vaccinations on the blockchain, perfect place for it. Voting, perfect place for it. Anything that that you don't want to be manipulated, you want to have a hard record of it and is transparent for all to see, and is mutable, so it's not changeable, right? You want to use blockchain for that. So everything that we're seeing in the world, I think it's just a major endorsement for Bitcoin and blockchain.
and I see as well. I think all of these lockdowns and money printing, it's giving more people time at home to read and learn and maybe watch YouTube videos, and that's helping people really understand, this world is in trouble. And I think it's promoting crypto in a big way. It's promoting people enriching themselves and learning and taking control of their financial freedom. Because when you put one on one together and you look at the money printing, and people now all of a sudden, like 20 years ago, you could ask somebody, so what's the inflation rate today? They wouldn't be able to tell you. Today, they see it when they go to a store and they buy an apple. It's like, huh? Or a coffee. Or as somebody said, a Big Mac meal was 10, 20 years ago was $2.99. Now it's nearly $10 or something. So stuff like that is just gone completely bonkers. So anyway, that is kind of the end of the questions, and a big thank you to everybody for being here. But this is the time at the end, and the market's gone up a little bit since you guys have been here. So good juju, as I say, which is fantastic. In fact, a couple of names are moving faster than others. Some are quite weak. Luna has been really weak today, but it's been running a lot for a long time. And that's what happens. These things run and then they get tired and they need a breather. Mm-hmm. So should we talk about our picks from last week, or just go into a pick this week, or skip that segment altogether? What do you think, guys?
I don't mind keep going with it. It's just for fun. I mean, I think Rob has the same stance as I do. I mean, we're not doing like some crazy research to pick a winner that we think will absolutely win for this week. It's just like, hey, we see something that we think is undervalued, that sold off, right, or hasn't moved, and they're fantastic projects, and we just stick with them, right? So I think it's fun. I would like to continue.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, let's give it a roll. Why not?
So last week, we all picked our different names. I actually picked Elrond because I liked the chart, but then I bought some on Sunday night and on Monday. So I was looking at that one for a long time, and right now it is exactly at the price it was a week ago. And I think that was kind of interesting. So it's dead flat. How about your picks from last week before we go into next week?
Ugh.
Yeah,
did.
I think I chose Cosmos. I'm pretty sure I chose Cosmos, and it's pretty close. Maybe down a few percentage, but it's pretty close to the same time as last week.
Yeah, and it's been a bumpy week, and
I did Algo, and for some reason, it was already down the week before, and then it's even more down this week. It's amazing. So sometimes you slide and you slide again.
Exactly, and certain names as well just got beaten to hell. So I'm a big fan of Chainlink, but that just has been suffering. But still, people come out and say Chainlink's going to pop. Chainlink's going to pop. Polkadot did have a nice rebound, but then sold off a little bit. We hit 34, I think. So there's lots of different signs. Things are kind of chomping at the bit, but with so much uncertainty, it's holding certain names back. So what do you guys think for this coming week?
I'm just looking for some ones that have gotten hit in the hardest. I can't really find. Everything's gotten hit so bad.
Yeah.
Go with the Huobi token.
Yeah. They lose all of China, and they're going to crush it. Oh my God! Gosh, Filecoin went down 32% in 7 days. Ouch.
Yeah.
EOS 26%. Hedera, IOTA. I'll do Kasama. Why not?
I think that was my first pick from ages ago. I think our very first show. It's definitely a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a big name. I'm gonna go with Cardano. I think Cardano has not moved in quite some time, and I like Cardano.
Yeah,
and I still think Cardano will hit $9 before Ethereum hits 9,000.
That's the internet doesn't. We have a record of that, which is fun. And I do think Cardano should be trading at least $3 right now. And the fact that it's so weak, it just takes me aback. I am torn between two, and these are ones that I like. My bags are full right now, but I think Matic has so much untapped value, and it's at $1.15 right now. I'll considering George, you're picking Cardano. I will pick Matic because that kind of is a balancer to that in the same category, same space. So
I agree with you. Matic has been so stagnant for so long. I have no idea why. They have so much good things going for them.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Unbelievable. There's so much everything, so much development. I think a lot of people are just concerned that ETH 2.0 is going to kill the need for layer 2s, but I don't see it. I think they're doing so much on their own. They'll be self-sufficient and have so much other capabilities.
James, I got to change my answer real quick because I'm going to kind of cheat here. There's this one called Cent token. It's a friend of mine, Alex Massioli, on his show, and he just put that emblem on two NASCAR cars.
Is that Center Coin?
No, SENT. It's like way down the list. So it if it pumps big.
So that's a sentiment token. Oh, that sounds like his sentiment. Is it his token?
Yeah. His SENT. And since he just put on NASCAR, I'm like, it should go up pretty high.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, we had a fourth guest today, but we didn't catch the name. What's your puppy's name, George?
My little dog. This guy's named Puff. He's really old, and
he's very cute.
He doesn't know what's going on anymore.
Awesome.
Unfortunately.
Well, thank you guys.
Finally, it was George's dog, not my dog, that photobombed.
Yeah. We have people coming in from India and Pakistan and all over the world. We get the European audience. So guys, just everybody out there who's new to George and Rob, please subscribe to their channels. So much good content from these guys every single day. Link is below. I want to wish everybody a happy weekend. Get some rest. Buckle in. There might be some volatility, some good sniping opportunities as well as we go forward. So big thank you as well to Rob and George. Any final closing remarks?
No.
Just stay in there. Yeah. Just if you come this far, you can come a little bit farther. And I think next quarter will be fireworks.
Yeah, actually, there is one last question. I get this a lot. Everybody is ready to sell at $99,000 Bitcoin. And then you have people like Jack Morris and Strike saying it's going to $400,000 next year. Well, what do you say to that? I talked about it yesterday in my video. Do you believe 400,000 is possible?
Not in this cycle. I don't believe, not in this cycle, but in the future, yeah. Definitely.
But if you sold out at 99, would you be kicking yourself if it went to 400? Talk about the FOMO you'd have after that.
Yeah. This is why I've learned, don't sell everything. If you're going to sell, never panic sell at all. It never works out. It almost never works out, because you may be right for a short time and maybe it does dump, and then it just has a V-shaped recovery right back up above to where you sold, and then you'll have to buy it back at a higher price. It always happens. It always happens. So if you're going to take profits, take some off the side, and don't sell your entire position for that very reason. If you saw 99,000, even if it goes down to 75, 60,000, it could come right back up and head towards $200,000, $300,000. Exactly. And then you go be kicking yourself for selling at 100,000.
And again, the adoption is just ramping right now. It's really going parabolic. I heard over 2 million people now have the Shiva wallet in 2 weeks in El Salvador. Despite all the fudge you hear about El Salvador not being a success, wait till you see how happy these people are going to be if Bitcoin hits $50,000.
That is the big thing. And if it does, then you're going to see MSNBC, CNBC, all those news rags are going to cover it like crazy, and it's going to increase it even more FOMO. FOMO begets more FOMO, and then they'll just go parabolic.
Exactly. Great. Yeah. Happy weekend, everybody. We had an hour. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And don't forget, like and subscribe to their channels. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.